This is WWE superstar Drew McIntyre, and you're listening to the WWE Podcast.
The champ is
the one that everybody wants, me.
It's going to WrestleMania. Claymore! Austin 316 says I just whipped your ass.
This is my iron. You're going to acknowledge me.
Welcome to the WWE Podcast. Time for the Monday Night Raw review. It is Tuesday, April 18th. Getting ahead of myself. 2023. And I hope everyone's doing well as we get closer and closer to Backlash. You know, it seems like it's sooner than it is. I don't know why it feels like it's dragging this time between events, but it does. And I think there's also that element of the draft that is in between WrestleMania and the Backlash event that's taking place in Puerto Rico on May 6th, I believe it is. So, hey, there's a lot coming up on WWE's schedule. As fans, there's a lot to talk about as we get closer and closer to Backlash and start to talk about Money in the Bank and the Saudi Arabia event and eventually SummerSlam in a few months. So, I hope you guys are ready for all that talk. As yes, we're rolling out a WrestleMania season, but you know what? It kind of all wraps back into one. There's always some kind of big event to look forward to. And then before you know it, you're already talking about WrestleMania 40. You know, that'll be coming sooner than you think. As I often see WWE take SummerSlam storylines and bring them all the way to WrestleMania. Seems to be happening as of late. So, all right. Well, if you guys want to join us on Patreon for an ad-free experience, it's patreon.com/WWE Podcast. And I'd like to welcome our brand new patron, John. John, welcome to the party, man. Hope you enjoy everything ad-free. And you can join John and others over at Patreon. We got a Discord server. We've got exclusive podcasts available only to the SmackDown tier and higher over at Patreon. We've got video on Patreon for those that are on the SmackDown tier and higher as well. But if you just want to get entry level, you still get everything ad-free. And by the way, you're going to hear more of these kinds of ads throughout the show for those that are not on Patreon, because I'm kind of ramping up my efforts to kind of build a business here and build a fan base. And if you want to get rid of these ads, great way to do it, Patreon or Apple Podcasts. Apple Podcasts offers a subscription for $2.99 a month. It's also available to you if you're interested. Alrighty. Well, it's time to get rolling here over on the Monday Night Raw side of things. And, you know, let's just start at the beginning here. I mean, there's a lot of places I could start. Cody Rhodes going insane, or Trish Stratus's explanation. But I'm going to start at the top of the show. And it started with Jimmy Jay and Solo and Paul Heyman coming out. And we got Jay telling the crowd that the Bloodline's in our city, as he always does. And then Jay passed the mic to Heyman. And the Judgment Day interrupted quickly. All of them, right? Every member was out there. Rhea, Dominic, Damian, and Finn. And they stood perfectly opposite of the Bloodline for a perfect hard camera shot that seemed a little too picturesque, but I get why they do it. And it was interesting to see these two groups together. You know, it made me wonder who the fans would cheer for if these two teams, these two factions were to ever go into battle. My gut is they would go with probably the Bloodline, given that Dominic Mysterio is so hated. And that's just my guess, but that's not what the purpose of this interaction was. It was actually to have Paul Heyman kind of clunkily, in a weird way, say that there's a temporary agreement or alliance between the Judgment Day and the Bloodline, which was interesting. Again, I don't remember these two groups ever having any kind of official face-off, so it was fun to see and interesting to see, and they allowed time for us to think about how we would react, because it wasn't a quick segment. It was a segment that was drawn out, and Paul Heyman was kind of clunky, but he also made the point that, well, the Usos made the point that they didn't know about it, but Paul said, well, Solo did, and then Paul Heyman made up some BS about why the Usos didn't know about this and Solo did, continuing to further the story of the Usos being on the bad side of Roman Reigns, who continues to be absent show after show. And that's to be expected following WrestleMania. But it's interesting that, I mean, this is the way I felt every time that Roman Reigns isn't there. I'm annoyed, but I'm annoyed with it, but I've also gotten kind of worn down to the fact that I don't expect him to be there very often. And he's still somehow there in our minds. He's infiltrated our minds in a way that you're always thinking, well, what is Roman going to do when he sees this? How is he going to react to this? And Paul Heyman does a nice job of, I guess, kind of portraying or just creating the Roman Reigns vibe. Like he's a magician in being able to almost make it feel like Roman's there when he's not. And by the way, does Paul Heyman know how to use an iPhone? Because and I don't know if it's done on purpose or if it's just he literally just no one's aware. He's not self-aware. Okay, I have an iPhone 14, right? The newest one. Not that that really matters for the purpose of what I'm going to say, but it just lets you know, like, I know enough about iPhones to know, okay, I get a new iPhone every single year. I'm the idiot who is buying a new iPhone every year, even though I know it's generally the same phone as the year before. Whatever. My point is, how many times do we see Paul Heyman on Raw, SmackDown, and this past week, when he hears something or sees something that he wants to immediately run back to the tribal chief and blab about, he gets on his phone and he speaks to the earpiece, number one, and he speaks way too close. No one uses their phone like that, by the way. I mean, he just says to his phone, call Roman, call the tribal chief, whatever. Again, he's talking to the wrong part of the phone. Most of the microphones are at the bottom of the phone, number one. And unless he's using Siri, in other words, like holding down a button, you have to say, hey, Siri, and then you'll be able to, just activated my phone right now, and then you'll be able to, say, to do whatever you want it to do. So just a bit of a pet peeve of mine, whether they're knowing they're doing it or not. Paul Heyman is not using his iPhone correctly, and just a small observation. That said, Paul Heyman he's great at bringing Roman Reigns' presence there, even when Roman's not there. And so I just wanted to bring that up. So basically, it was a temporary alliance between these two factions for the evening. And it was a you scratch my back, I scratch yours. The Judgment Day helps take care of the Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens riddle problem, while the Usos and Solo Sikoa take care of the Rey Mysterio, LWO, that whole faction there. Bad Bunny was not there. I actually thought he might be. I thought there was a chance, but it seems like they're saving him for a later date and an eventual matchup, you'd imagine. So it was a kind of you scratch my back, I scratch yours. Interesting to me. I didn't hate it. I thought it was unique. I did not see that coming. All right. But Heyman said it's a very good day to be a very bad guy. I could have done without that line. But talking about a short-term deal, and it was engineered by Roman Reigns and signed off by Roman Reigns. And then we got Heyman saying the Judgment Day had an issue with Bad Bunny and Solo Sikoa would take care of it, as I just mentioned. So we then transitioned to Solo Sikoa versus Rey Mysterio. And this is about 12 minutes. It felt longer, but it was a good match, really good match. I enjoyed this a lot. And also the one thing I enjoyed about this was continuing to push forward Solo Sikoa as a monster. And what I mean by that is the number of one counts that Solo Sikoa had in this match were noticeable and effective, because one counts are not used enough. If the objective of the match is to put your opponent's shoulders to the mat for 3 seconds, wouldn't it behoove you to not be on your back at all and then kind of instinctually get off your back as quickly as possible? Yes. And Solo made use of that logic, as well as pushing forward that, hey, even halfway through the match, you're getting a 1 count. That was small but effective to me. So I enjoyed that. The Samoan drops that Solo Sikoa hit on Rey for a near fall was good. We ended up getting Jimmy and Jay coming to ringside. And then the LWO, Santos Escobar, Cruz del Toro, and Joaquin Wilde come in and even the odds. Rey then went for a 619 that Sikoa, he hit on Sikoa, but Rey fought back, and he eventually did hit the move. And Rey went for a top rope splash that Sikoa avoided, and then Sikoa hit the Samoan Spike for the victory. So, a good match. The right person won. Absolutely the right person won. After the match, though, we got Escobar, Del Toro, and Wilde checking on Rey, and then the Usos came back and roughed them up. Sikoa hit a Samoan Spike on... hit Samoan Spikes on all of them, and then hit the Usos. The Usos hit 1D on Rey, and they stood tall. Really nice here. And again, the build was really on Solo, who laid everyone out at the end of the match, other than Rey, who got hit with a 1D, but he beat Rey already. And the Samoan Spike continues to be resurrected from the days of Umaga. And I really love that finish. That finish makes sense. It's believable. It's quick hitting. It's fun to watch. It's also easily performed safely compared to some other maneuvers. So that's all important. And I just love the build of Solo. Solo continues to be the right-hand man of Roman. Roman clearly trusts Solo more than the Usos. He's in the much better graces of the Tribal Chief than the Usos are, which, of course, as we know, the Usos and Roman Reigns. There's a lot of unsaid dialogue between those two. Think about it. Roman Reigns hasn't even addressed the fact that the Usos lost the tag team championships yet. I mean, unless it was in passing, there hasn't been a real conversation, and it's coming. And I'm ready for it.
Hey guys, do you wish there was a way to get rid of all the ads you're hearing in this show? Then head on over to patreon.com/WWE podcast. And for just $1 a month, you can get all of the episodes you hear on this podcast ad-free. We also have exclusive video and other podcasts as you head up in tier. Of course, Patreon is just one option. You can also use the Apple Podcasts app directly to get ad-free everything for this show and get a 1-week free trial over at Apple Podcasts, or head over to our website, wwepodcast.com, and go VIP to get all of the shows you're hearing right now ad-free.
All right, let's get into the next segment here. And we got Bianca Belair coming out, and the broadcast team reminded us that Io Sky earned a title shot last week, and Graves helped Belair facing Dakota Kai in a non-title match after the break. So he's talking about Dakota Kai getting a non-title match. And then we have Io Sky and Bayley at ringside for this match between Bianca and Dakota. And the match ended in just under 10 minutes. As expected, again, the Damage Control tried to make their presence felt, and Belair went for a KOD. Kai held on to Belair's ponytail, and then Kai stuffed another move attempt, and Belair avoided a running kick in the corner and hit the KOD for the win. A matter-of-fact win. And that's to be expected. Not that Bianca Belair is really doing much of anything. And at this point, Bianca Belair, do I dare say she's in free fall? Maybe that's overdone. Maybe that's overdramatic. She's on a decline. How about this? She's on a steady decline of relevance. By the way, this didn't even make the Hulu cut of Raw. That your Raw Women's Champion who's in a match, yes, it's non-title, but still she's your champion, didn't even make it to the Raw Hulu cut. And that's a bit, I don't know. I mean, not that she is doing anything super important, but she's still your champion. Not a great sign. On top of the fact she barely gets any mic time to continue to further her character. They've just kind of frozen her character in time of kind of the same lines, right? Fed to her the same things, and she's the EST of everything. We get it. And she's twirling her hair and skipping to the ring. I mean, she's just kind of frozen in time somehow, and that's not a good thing. She needs to evolve, and I think the evolution needs to go HEEL. I think that is a perfect place for her to be. Do they want to do that right now? Clearly they don't, because they've got to use Belair as a catalyst for the split of Damage Control. I think that's what we all kind of are looking forward to, is the end of Damage Control. That's, approximately 2.5 fans care about. And that's weird to say given how big of a star Bayley is. It's just that this group never worked. That's all. I'm not crapping on it. It's just sometimes things look like they'll work, or on paper you think they will, but they don't. And this group has been together since August, which is insane. I mean, how many months is that? Like 9 months? Nearly that they've been together? It feels like forever. They need to all just kind of make their own way. Bayley needs to go on her own, and I think that's what's going to happen here with the title match between Bianca and Io Sky. Is Bayley's going to screw Io Sky out of it, and therefore you're going to see a rift in the group, and adios Damage Control. I don't think that group can disintegrate fast enough. So that's ultimately what I think is going to happen here. But Bianca Belair continues to roll as she should right now, I guess. But boy, they've got work to do with Bianca. Big time work with Bianca Belair right now to get her back on track. If you're trying to keep her as a babyface, they've got a ton of work to do. Because the crowd, they aren't booing her, but they're just kind of like, oh, cool, Bianca's here. No one's losing their minds. Bianca's not cutting good promos because they're not really allowing her to, or I don't know what the reason. She's just there, and she's been just there for a while. This isn't just a recent problem with Bianca. Given the fact that she is one of your best, if not the best, pure athlete for the women's division that WWE has, bar none. She's that good. The character is a bit immature for a grown woman to be doing what she's doing on the way to the ring. It's not my favorite. I understand why she does it, to appeal to the younger audience, but she's acting like, a 10-year-old girl when she should be acting like a 35 or however old she is woman, a grown ass woman. I understand again why it's the appeal to the younger audience, the connection with the younger audience, particularly the black girls, and I get it. I understand it. I have no problem with that, but we've made that connection, right? Like now it's time to evolve. For the sake of your career, for being able to reach the highest potential you can, which I think we haven't seen yet the best days of Bianca. I really don't. So, just my 2 cents here. We'll see if they end up implementing that or not. But, okay, then we got a video package recapping Brock and Cody on Raw after Mania with the attack from Brock. And boy, have we seen that a lot, haven't we? I think we get it. We've seen it on SmackDown multiple times. We've seen it on Raw multiple times. I've seen it on social media. It's like we get it. Okay, Brock attack Cody. And, this past week, okay? I'll pause there because I have a bit of a problem, not with the Brock heel turn, not even with Cody. I actually really loved what Cody did on Monday. Not even that. I'll get to it when we get there. So I'm just trying to go in order a little bit today. All right. Then we get to the Judgment Day shown backstage. And Priest spoke about Bad Bunny appearing next week. And Priest said Bunny needs to return with a different attitude and that Bunny knows what can happen and he'll just stop being his friend. Dom said Priest doesn't need to be his friend, just as he doesn't need Rey Mysterio as his father. Paul Heyman then walked through and asked the faction if they were satisfied, and Balor said, So that set off Paul, That's when he used his phone to call the tribal chief in a very peculiar... that's how your grandma would use a phone. You know what I mean? The way that Paul Heyman uses his phone, maybe some people do. And you know what? Maybe there are mics located at the top of the iPhone. It still looks weird. It looks like Paul Heyman, if he FaceTimed you, it would be like FaceTiming your grandmother where she gets half of her face in the shot. Right? Like it's just like she doesn't know how to really use it. She's frustrated with the technology. She feels like it should just work the way she wants it to. You know what I mean? And that's the way I kind of feel like with Paul Heyman. And maybe it's by design. I don't know. Okay. Then we got Cody Rhodes coming out. And he did not come out in a suit. He came out in gear. Well, kind of. In a cutoff hoodie. And I like that, number one. He doesn't need to look like he's about to head to a corporate meeting every time he comes out. And he just look kind of like a normal dude. Hallelujah. I don't think it's going to stick. I think it's just for the purpose of what he was after for that night. And hey, I'll take it. But he said he knew what he wanted to talk about and who he wanted to talk to. And then he called out Brock Lesnar. Now, before we get to Brock, do you notice, Cody, anybody else here when he asked, hey, Little Rock, so what do you want to talk about? Okay, y'all know I hate this because he's trying to make it a thing and it's not a thing. And if it was a cool phrase or if it was something catchy, I'd be like, yeah, there's something to this. It's not working. You know why it's not working? Because how is the crowd supposed to react to a statement like that? How do they cheer? Are they supposed to cheer that? What are they supposed to chant? I mean, you know what I mean? Those kinds of statements, that what do you want to talk about thing should be used or should have been used as like once in a very long time, not as a regular weekly catchphrase, because that should be something that should be used when something massive happens and he's being very facetious about, something massive happened and he's got to address it. And then he comes out and he's like, so what do you want to talk about? Like, okay, that's a little clever. And the crowd, maybe chant something, but for him to do this on a weekly basis, again, asking the crowd what do they want to talk about isn't going to get them to cheer. It's not a statement that makes someone cheer, because what are they cheering? You asking the question? And how is the crowd supposed to answer the question? Many people have many different things they would say that Cody should talk about. Like, there's no way for the crowd to react to this. So I don't know what he expects every time he says that. Is it he thinks he's being clever? Well, again, the crowd isn't going to come up with a concise chant the second he says that. It's not like the crowd has a knee-jerk response and they know how to play along or play into this. There's nothing to play into because there are variable answers to that question. And it's not a yes or no, cheer, don't cheer question, because it's an open-ended question. So it's a bad catchphrase. So there, I think I made my point. I wanted to talk about that. That's what I wanted to talk about. Pun intended. All right. So Cody calls out Brock. Adam Pearce walked out and said that he appreciates Cody's spirit and what he's trying to do, but he couldn't let him do it. And Pearce entered the ring and said Cody wasn't medically cleared to be there. Well, first of all, Pearce, if he wasn't medically cleared to be there, why are we seeing promotions throughout the show? You're talking about Cody and Brock, they're in the same building. What's going to happen? If he's not medically cleared, then what's he out there for? Wouldn't you just call off the segment? Did you not know until he was already out there and then got the medical report and said, oh, wait, I got to go out. I got to go out and tell Cody he's not medically cleared. I don't know. If he's not medically cleared and you're the one who's making everything official and everything runs by you, then how did this segment even happen to begin with? I don't know. It's not a rant, just an observation of just some kind of, sometimes just very obvious loopholes in logic.
Hey guys, do you wish there was a way to get rid of all the ads you're hearing in this show? Then head on over to patreon.com/WWE podcast. And for just $1 a month, you can get all of the episodes you hear on this podcast ad-free. We also have exclusive video and other podcasts as you head up in tier. Of course, Patreon is just one option. You can also use the Apple Podcasts app directly to get ad-free everything for this show and get a 1-week free trial over at Apple Podcasts, or head over to our website, wwepodcast.com, and go VIP to get all of the shows you're hearing right now ad-free.
All right. So we then got... Pearce said again, he respects Cody's spirit and all this, but Cody seemed like he was going to adhere to the rules and said okay, but then pulled a chair out from under the ring. And Pearce said that if Cody wouldn't leave on his own, he's going to need security to help him leave. A bunch of security guards, i.e. local wrestling talent, surrounded Cody Rhodes while Pearce told Cody that it didn't have to happen like this. And that's when Brock Lesnar's music hit. And Brock comes out in a dark kind of almost Undertaker trench coat, but he's also still got the black hat with a feather in it. Bizarre outfit. Weird. I know it's supposed to be symbolic of his turn in character. Same with Trish, who wore black, and she wore black the night that she turned on Becky. Black is always, usually, it's not always, but it's usually a foreshadowing of something to happen negatively, evil, right? It's a foreshadow. But I don't know what Brock's going for. A kind of an evil cowboy. I'm not. I don't know. An Undertaker hybrid cowboy. I'm not sure. I don't know. It was weird. I understand that the look change. It's you want to follow the story in a cohesive way that also matches the way you look, and that since your character changed, your physical appearance should change a little bit. Fine. You know, it was, again, I don't know what to make of it yet. I haven't made a decision on it yet. But here's one thing, though. I loved what Cody did. Okay? Cody, as expected, took out, my God, he took out nearly all 20 of the security guards. And my guess is that Adam Pearce is going to announce next week that Cody is banned from the building because of what happened, and that he put his hands on, you know, dozens of security guards, and that he's suspended for a week. Which, if that happens, you know, Brock's going to show up, and then the announcers can hammer Brock for being there in the ring when he knew Cody's not there. And so that heel dynamic is going to, you know, continue to build on Brock Lesnar's turn here. And I think that's a likely scenario. I forget where they are next week city-wise, but boy, wouldn't you love to have Brock Lesnar's schedule? I mean, I understand he hates to travel, but he barely has to bump anymore. He shows up, smiles, walks out, doesn't engage with Cody, who's battling the security guards to get to Brock. Brock doesn't lift a finger, smiles and walks away, doesn't even have a post-match interview with anybody, and then just leaves. You know, you see him backstage and you're figuring, hey, okay, somebody's going to catch up to Brock and say, buddy, so why did you turn on Cody 2 weeks ago? What's your motivation? Can you tell us? You know, basic journalistic questions. And we've gotten zero. Now, good for Brock. He just shows up, makes my guy. Don't you wonder on a minute-by-minute breakdown how much Brock made last night just by walking out and walking back to this plane and going home? It's probably like a few $100,000. You know, I don't know, maybe not that much, but it's a lot. It's a significant amount of money for doing nothing. Good for him, though. But my point is even more significant, though, beyond the jealousy of Brock's schedule that I have, is that no one is asking him the question. Why? And at this point, I think WWE has felt that they have given enough of an answer from Cody and from the announcers that they don't need to have Brock himself explain. And I know Brock's never been a great promo, but he's certainly intelligent enough to be able to just give us an explanation. I don't need an A+ promo. I just need a reason. I need to hear it from you. I don't need to hear speculative answers or reasons why. The announcer is saying, oh, it's Brock's spot. Brock was annoyed with the spot he had at WrestleMania compared to Cody. Or, according to Cody last week, Brock doesn't like him and he attacked him because he changes. He came here to change things. Whatever the hell that's supposed to mean. None of those make sense. I've already broken down why both of those are extremely weak and inconsistent completely with Brock's character. So, hey, can we get something from Brock? But I think, again, as I mentioned, I think WWE has felt that they've now gone past the question stage to just now they need to have the match stage. And I'm like, no. You gave us nothing. You gave us speculation. Why don't you ask the guy that actually did it? But they won't. How much do you want to bet? And if they do, you know, hey, more power to them. They should. But I'm not going to pat them on the back and praise them if they do, because they should. I mean, that's just poor, lazy storytelling. Now, I love the Brock Lesnar Cody matchup. It's fun. It's new. I'm interested. But do they feel that they just never need to give us an explanation for Brock attacking people like he did with Bobby Lashley, of which we got no explanation for? Never? Like, I don't know. I think they feel Brock is a big enough star that people aren't going to care. The star power overshadows any logic that's needed, and it makes up for the typical storytelling rules. No. In fact, if you're a bigger star, I would argue that your reasoning should be more thorough than a typical heel turn for just a mid-card guy. I don't know. Call me old school. I'm just asking and looking for basic storytelling to give us a reason why Brock attacked Cody outside of speculation from people that didn't have anything to do with it. All right. Rant over, but I did like the segment, to be honest. Cody showed a lot of fire. He looked like a badass. And this was a very effective segment. Really good. I like this. All right. What happened next? Let's get to it. We got Seth Rollins versus The Miz. Man, this was good. Very unexpectedly good. I mean, you look at this and you're like, oh, how many times have we seen this match, right? You look at this and you're like, all right, I guess this is kind of a filler match. And not that these two guys are filler guys necessarily, especially Seth, but it's a kind of a cold program. It's nothing special, but this was good. Number one, there was no Miz TV. Thank God. Number two, the Miz showed some fire. That was a different Miz out there. And look, I'm not a Miz fan. Okay? I'm not a Miz fit. I'm not a Mike Mizanin fan per se. I despised him when he was in the tag team with John Morrison. I thought it was just repulsive. However, if this is a hint or a sign of things to come for the Miz's character of aggression, attacking Seth before the match, showing that he can put on a very good match, reminding us he can. The near falls, the two DDTs were simple stuff that made you believe that he could win. And the way that Seth sold the second DDT, it looked like he broke his neck. I mean, my God, this was good. The crowd even chanting, "This is awesome." When is the last time a Miz match got a "This is awesome" chant? I'm talking one-on-one, not one that he was in a triple threat or a multi-person team or a multi-person match or a money bag ladder match. No. I'm talking one-on-one. I don't know. And credit to Seth too. Obviously, I mean, he's a master of the ring, makes his opponent look 100 times better than they actually are, and that's an attribute. I'm not saying that's not. It's a huge asset. But Miz held his own and showed us a newfound aggression. I liked it. I really like this. So we'll see. Obviously, Seth Rollins wins, but it took a lot out of Seth. So again, no problem here. This is good. This was really good. So, and by the way, Miz is going to need it. Miz needs a bit of a rebuild after, getting destroyed by multiple people at WrestleMania, including the partially Shane McMahon until he tore his quad 30 seconds in. Snoop Dogg kicking his ass, right? So, hey, all right. Then let's see. Again, they hyped Bad Bunny for next week. And that Graves said that Trish is going to explain her actions. See? Trish can do it, Brock. Why can't Brock do it? Oy. All right. Then we get the United States champion, Austin Theory versus Bobby Lashley in a non-title match. This was also really good. And it got better as it went on. And we had Lashley bust his mouth a little bit towards the end of the match, and Theory leaped over Lashley for a spear attempt. Lashley slipped out of Theory's 8-count down, and then Lashley slammed Theory into the mat and covered him for a 2 count, and then Lashley set him up for a spear, and Theory returned with a roll through the ropes, only to have Lashley catch him in the hurt lock, and then Theory backed him into the corner. And then Bronson Reed splashed both men to end the match, so no contest for Bobby versus Theory. Makes sense. Both men can't afford a loss right now. So I'm all for this. And they're trying to build Bronson Reed. And Bronson Reed ended up taking out Lashley pretty violently to a lot of boos. A lot of boos. And I don't know if those boos were pumped in, especially for the Trish segment. We'll get to that. I'd love to talk to somebody that was live in person on Raw. And maybe I'll listen to another podcast to get that perspective. We all know which one that is. The big ones, right? But I have my doubts that there were that many boos for Bronson Reed. I could be wrong, but particularly for Trish. Not that she didn't do a great job, and we'll talk about that, as I said, in a minute. But, all right, let's move on. So Reed gets a big-time segment here, probably the biggest segment of his career, taking out a big star, massive star in Lashley, and making a name for himself. So this match, I'm looking forward to it. Give Bronson Reed a name, help him make a star, right? No problem. He finished Lashley with a tsunami splash. So if you're interested in details. All right. And by the way, does the U.S. title need a little bit more shine and Austin Theory need some momentum? Yes. Okay. I think that Austin Theory's he's cooled off big time since WrestleMania. Hasn't really capitalized on the victory over Cena because, well, let's face it, his victory over Cena is always going to be tainted with the low blow. Honestly, I know Austin Theory is a heel, but at this point in John Cena's career, he can afford a clean loss. And that actually I think would have been a better fit for Austin Theory than having to cheat to win. I think that would have put a little bit more credibility behind him. But all right, let's continue on. We got, let's see. Now then we got Trish coming out. And Trish said that the fans who chanted "This is awesome" during the Charlotte Flair-Rhea Ripley match at Mania should have been chanting "Thank you, Trish." And that by the way, she said she wanted to give us a history lesson and said that women's wrestling was a joke back in the day and she brought credibility to all of it. And people say it was Trish and Lita, but Trish said she was the women's division and the true trailblazer. Well, I got news for Trish. Can you wrestle yourself? You know, like I get it. I'm just trying to dismantle the heels logic here, and that's what I would say if I was a babyface, right? If I was Trish, and it looks like we may get a Trish Lita match. Dare I say, are they no longer besties? Something to think about. She admitted that she attacked Lita. Something I think that could be coming. But talked about how fans should have been chanting during the Ripley Flair match that they should have been chanting "Thank you, Trish," and that Becky Lynch would have fans believe that the women's evolution started with the 4 horsewomen, and said that Lynch wants people to believe they broke boundaries, but that's a joke, just like Lynch. And she said that Lynch calls herself the man until she eventually wondered if Lynch believed her own hype, and Lynch never thanked anyone for opening the door for her, and that she said she is nobody's sidekick, and that she wanted to be the person to screw Lynch out of the women's tag titles. Well, did you really screw Lynch out of the tag titles? You didn't come out and interfere. You were a part of the match and competing at a high level. I don't know. That was weird. It looks like you're the one that lost, but it looked like you lost fair and square. It wasn't a overt screw job in the eyes of fans, but fine. Let's move on. So Trish asked if Lynch remembered the moment she put her arm around her and said they would get him next time. And Trish said she wasn't Lynch's friend, and she took out the man. And she said she's not a nostalgia act, a childhood fantasy, or a sidekick, and that she's the most important figure in the history of WWE. And she's here to make sure no one forgets it. And then drop the mic. So, hey, I like this because she is getting something to do that's beyond a nostalgia act. That's exactly what she is, or has been up to that point. The childhood fantasy thing, yeah, I mean, like, look, she is from an era of which they sexualized most of the women, and she was a piece of the credible part of the women's division. And look, if you subtract 20 years from most of the men that are watching now, yeah, sure. I think that childhood fantasy kind of fits the bill. So her mentioning that was funny. It's kind of a acknowledgement to all the male fans that used to watch her back in the day. Hey, it is what it is. But it's true. She was a legitimate piece of the brand, and her calling herself the most important figure in the history of WWE is obviously a massive overstatement. Massive. But this, to me, was probably Trish's best promo in years, because Trish as a babyface is not fun, I don't think. She's never been a great promo, but this seemed to really fit the bill. She stumbled over a few words, mispronounced a few words, but she did really well and delivered this in a very effective way. And I think it's going to be used a lot in video packages heading into the Backlash event. That's presumably going to be Becky versus Trish. So I like this. Okay. We then got, Chelsea Green and Sonya Deville versus Candice LeRae and Michin. Chelsea Green and Sonya beat Candice LeRae and Michin because obviously they are challenging for the women's tag titles, so they have to. It was a squash match, basically a glorified squash match. And after the match, Green and DeVille went to ringside to stare down with Morgan and Rodriguez. Green threw water in Morgan's face, and a referee held Morgan back. Fine. I mean, it's the best they can do to build up a women's tag team title match, so that's fine. All right. Then we got an ad airing for the draft, and some stars talking about the draft. Montez Ford, Angela Dawkins, Rick Boogs, Elias, Baron Corbin showed up, put his arms around Ford and Dawkins, and reminded them that the tag teams can be split up. Right? Akira Tozawa showed up. The Usos delivered a promo while Sikoa stood behind them in Taz mode, and that's a great way to put it, Taz mode. Yeah, I like that. With his arms crossed and a black towel over his head. So then we get the 6-man tag match hyped for Backlash, which is Solo Sikoa and the Usos versus Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn, and Matt Riddle. By the way, Matt Riddle cut a promo earlier in the night trying to give ideas about the bro toe or something, but then did something that I think is much needed for the Matt Riddle character. He Lance stormed it. In other words, he got serious for a minute, and he brought back his inner badass, where everything is not a joke to him. He said he didn't come back here to be a joke or to tell jokes. He came here to kick ass. That's the Matt Riddle I want. I don't mind the occasional kind of, here and there joke, because he's decent at humor. But man, yes, this is the Matt Riddle I want. So I really appreciated that. But all right, then we got the main event of Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn, and Matt Riddle versus the Judgment Day, which is Dominic, Damian, and Priest. I'm sorry, Dominic, Damian, and Finn. And this ended in 12 minutes with the baby faces winning. Kevin, Sami, and Matt Riddle beat the Judgment Day. And it ended with Owens tagging in Zayn. Owens hit stunners on Priest and Balor, and then Zayn put Balor down with a Helluva kick. And then Zayn tagged in Riddle. He hit a floating bro and got the cover. So, good. I mean, I have no problem with this, because now it makes you wonder. And by the way, this is a good match, but what is Roman Reigns going to do now that the Judgment Day didn't hold up their end of the bargain? Because right now, the Bloodline is accumulating a lot of enemies, if you didn't notice. The LWO, Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn, Matt Riddle, eventually Randy Orton. They've got some enemies, and big enemies, and multiple enemies. So, something to think about. And another high-level thing that was brought up to me, I think it was from Anthony DeMarco, which, by the way, go listen to our conversation last night. We did a mock draft for the 2023 draft. What is WWE going to do when the Bloodline storyline ends? And when the Bloodline's dissolved? Hopefully they have something in mind, because they are the centerpiece of both shows. Which makes me wonder, and this is going to be the ultimate test, because the Usos do not have the tag titles anymore. Can WWE keep the Bloodline, meaning those that do not have championships, off of the brand they're not supposed to be on? That's the true test, because they are welcome pieces on Raw and SmackDown, and the people love seeing them, and they've always got great stories going through both brands. So that's going to be the big test for me. All right. So after the match, the Usos and Solo Sikoa attacked the babyface trio, and Graves said they were trying to pick up the slack because the Judgment Day didn't hold up their end. And then Rey Mysterio came out, and he brought out the LWO, and a massive brawl ensued. I mean, it was just chaos to end Raw, and it was fun. I thought this was just a good show, a good Monday Night Raw. Certainly not without its flaws, but most people, I'm looking at a poll here that was put up, and most people felt it was a good show or a great show, and that's 61% of people felt it was good or great, and 25% of people felt it was accurate, average, 4% disappointing, 11% awful. So that's pretty good, right? I think that's a pretty solid number for WWE from just a small sampling of fans. But honestly, this is still the Bloodline's show. And the Bloodline still runs Raw and SmackDown here. Bloodline is the reason a lot of people watch the show right now. It's one of the better storylines WWE's had in a long time. And I just have a sneaking suspicion that somehow, some way, they're going to find a loophole or just not care that the entire Bloodline is on Raw if they're drafted to SmackDown or vice versa. Something tells me they're all going to stick on SmackDown. You can't break up the Bloodline. That's my hunch. They won't be able to. They just can't help themselves. They cannot help themselves to save their life. So, all right. Well, I think that did it for me for the Monday Night Raw review. I got all my rants out, all my frustrations. You guys can do the same if you email me at realwwepodcast@gmail.com or mailbag@wwepodcast.com. I've got some interesting emails coming, guys. Some of them I can't wait to answer. So people, they're poking the bear is what they're doing. Somebody mentioning to me that, Cody Rhodes is now the face of WWE because he has higher merch sales than Roman. So am I ready to admit that? And stuff like that. It's like, I can't wait to respond. This is going to be a fun mailbag tomorrow that you guys can submit your questions to. You can also call us and leave a voicemail. You can do that with the number that's in the description notes of all of our mailbag shows that drop on Wednesday nights. So it's going to be a fun one. That'll close out the week for me on a Wednesday. But if you guys haven't checked it out, we've also got a brand new episode of Wrestle Magic that is done by Michael Gross, Memphis Mark, and Rocky T. If you guys are interested in that, a 2-hour show they put together. I'm very grateful. I've listened to some of it. I haven't got to all of it yet, but I recommend that you go listen to it. The topic is PPV to PLE, pay-per-view to premium live event. Great topic, and they just great chemistry. So I recommend you guys check it out. It's available right now, and you can also go ad-free if you want to at wwepodcast.com, Apple Podcasts, or patreon.com/WWE Podcast. So, alrighty. That's it for me tonight, guys. I really appreciate everyone listening. As always, take care. I'll talk to you next time.
Thanks for listening to the WWE Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss a show, or head to wwepodcast.com. And for all of these shows ad-free, head over to patreon.com/WWE Podcast. Until then, we'll see you next time.